All right. Well, before we welcome everybody, before we start the session, I just wanted to let you know that we'll be recording this session, and we will have Lauren present for about 40 minutes, and then we'll say thank you and cut this recording off, and then we'll still be available for 20 minutes afterwards for questions from the audience. So I want to, are we ready to start? All right. Okay, well, I want to welcome you all to this week's Impact Hour. We're so excited that you're here, and we're really excited to have so many students and participants from other parts of the country. So Lauren is a great draw. I'm going to start by introducing Lauren, who's going to speak on developing your unique social work voice. And Lauren has worked in the field for several years. She graduated in 2009, which really surprised me. It seems like yesterday. And she has worked with social workers in many, many different areas as a mentor, an influencer, and a clinical supervisor, which we'll tell you a little bit in a minute. Lauren has a YouTube channel with over 18,000 followers, and she also has a great Instagram account with over 10,000 followers. And so what a great ambassador for the school. And Lauren did her field placement at CIS in Austin and also at Austin Independent School District. So for all you students out there, I just want to tell you, this could be you someday. If you work as hard as Lauren does and is creative, this is a social worker who has really used her energy and intelligence and creativity to influence our profession. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Lauren Gutierrez from Social Work Scrapbook.
I got lost a little bit trying to present here. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I've been trying to bite my tongue, but so excited to see a lot of familiar faces and names here. I'm Lauren, and I'm super excited to share a little bit of my social work journey. And I'm also here to help you banish or decrease any type of imposter fatigue, because I suffered through that during my grad school experience and undergrad that I'm going to share a little bit today, but that's really the goal of today. So I'm going to switch over to some slides so it's much easier for you to follow along. So that's what I was trying to do before. And I just wanted to say hi very quickly. Okay, so here are my slides. Let me present them out. There we go. Hope everyone can see that. So the way we're going to tackle and start decreasing any imposter syndrome is by developing your own unique social work voice. And so that's the goal of today. And that's the goal in social work sessions. It's just finding our voice, being confident enough to interact with a client and help them bring their guards down, right? So that's the goal of today. So I'm going to move on through and just give you a little bit about myself. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I did graduate twice over from the University of Texas. I am a first-generation college student, and I got my bachelor's in 2007, really holding my breath the whole time. I felt like it wasn't the space for me. I was really nervous about even making graduation. And then I just jumped straight into my MSW experience and then got my MSW in 2009. But I'm really utilizing my degree right now as a clinical social worker and board approved supervisor, and also as a school social worker specifically for teenage parents. So these are pregnant and parenting teens. This is really a full circle moment for me because I'm actually the child of teen parents. My mom had me the spring break of her senior year and then went right back to school on Monday morning. So her work ethic, she and my dad got married shortly before I was born, and they've been together ever since. So it's really their work ethic that has pushed me to really take up space and to own my place in this world and in this social work field. And I really then took it above and beyond, kind of researching and looking through YouTube in the searches for social work on Instagram, on Pinterest. I really wasn't satisfied with what I was seeing. I saw a lot of the stigmas And so that's where I developed Social Work Scrapbook to share my experiences, my insights, so that others can really open their eyes to the field that I love so, so much. And I know I'm preaching to the choir right now here a little bit. So, but that's a little bit about me in case you weren't aware. So welcome everybody. This presentation is for you if you know you want to go the clinical route. So if you know you want to be a therapist one day, you're in the perfect spot. Or if you haven't even talked to clients at all and you're kind of just not sure, you're afraid to freeze in the session, this is for you. And for anyone that just has a hard time connecting with those really tough, resistant clients, we all have those. I've had those, I still have those sometimes, and I even revert back to this framework that I'm going to teach y'all today. However, this is really not for you if you are the type of person that wants to hear yourself as the expert in the session. That's not what this is about today. So I put expert in quotations because we all know in social work, the client is really the expert in their world and with their situation. We're there to guide them. So I'm going to trigger you if that's your mindset, or if you have no interest in connecting at all with the client or going slow and building rapport, I'm going to trigger you lots. So it's not going to be a good day for you on that one. Like I said, I've guided many social workers to help pursue their confidence and really gain that competence that they need in order to slay the self-doubts and really start owning that space in session. So it's been so long, since 2009, I've been a social worker. So I've seen a lot of what works and really what doesn't work over the years. And truth be told, the 4 foundations that I'm going to teach y'all today is really what I feel is lacking when you're first stepping into a social work role. So I realized that it doesn't take a magic wand or any magic powers to connect at all with the client. It just is very little things that we need to tweak and things to help you connect. So I'm going to go ahead and let you know that if you know me, if you watched any of my videos or follow me on Instagram, you know that I like to make things very concrete and very applicable. So that's what you're going to get today. We're just talking about real quick tools that you can use and add to your social work toolbox to help you connect. And so that's my goal today. And I also want to stop real quick and just define imposter syndrome. If you're new to that term or you're not quite sure what that means, imposter syndrome is really the little voices that sneak up into our brains and our minds that tell us we're not good enough, that tell us someone else can do it better than us, that our clients deserve better. It's these mindsets. And as I'm talking and reviewing these, I believe we're interactive. So if you have one in your mind right now, jot it down or type it in the comments, because I really want to help you slay each one of these today. That's my goal. But my point is when we are thinking these thoughts, and we start holding on tightly and grasping to these, they sound so valid in our minds. So we start kind of believing them as the truth when they're not. We begin to self-sabotage ourselves. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more as well. But that's basically the root of imposter syndrome, all of those little thoughts that we get through. So today we're going to cover a lot very, very quickly. As you can tell, I'm talking really fast and I kind of go everywhere with purpose. It's just who I am. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But before we get going, I really am hoping that you can close all tabs and really be present today, just as we practice in session to be present with the clients. I know sometimes I'm trying to send a quick email or send a quick text when a client walks in on me and I'm like trying to do both. It's impossible. So if we can close all tabs on our devices and in our minds and begin to think about a client that you find pretty resistant, pretty hard to reach. If you're someone that wants to get a lot out of this training, then I would have that client top of mind while we're going through this. And then a pen and paper to jot down any thoughts or any questions that come along the way, and I'll go ahead and answer questions towards the end, as Ms. Jennifer stated. So today we're going to talk about some of the 3 biggest mistakes that newer social workers find themselves making early on, so we don't make those. And we're also going to define our role to a client in a way that helps them drop their guards rather quickly. It's going to feel like we have that magic wand I said we didn't need. It's really going to feel like that because the conversation's just going to flow really easily from the get-go. So what I'm reviewing today is a lot of basic stuff, but it's these basic building blocks that make all the next level social work things like your interventions and your treatment planning. It's going to make all that work for you. Okay. So we're going to start off with a little assignment. This is a quick little question that I want to throw out to you, which is, what do you do? And if you can jot that down real quick, this is really going to help us find some clarity and for me to see where you're at in your journey and your process. And you may also be struggling here in trying to decide or trying to define what is it that you do. And when we struggle and we don't have the answer to this right off the bat, then it makes it hard for other people to refer to us. So it makes those referrals coming in, it makes those kind of blocked as well. And it also just makes it hard for people to understand what our impact is as social workers. So as you're jotting that down, I realize that imposter syndrome may be slipping in right here, right now. So there's these things that kind of block us when we're defining this question. And I want to get into a little bit more of how imposter syndrome works. So we know what it is, but the way it works is there's two things in our brain that are part of ourselves, and that's our drive to achieve. Those are our goals. Those are our drives to get the LMSW one day and go for the clinical licensure and become a supervisor or apply for that dream job of yours. All these drives to achieve are intertwined and kind of working hand in hand with our natural instinct to avoid threats. So these things are constantly kind of keeping us safe and keeping us motivated. And if they're balanced, we're good. But as soon as you guessed it, as soon as that natural instinct begins to take over and outweigh and kind of overdo our drive to achieve, as soon as those threats become true to us, those little voices start becoming true, they take over our drive to achieve, and then we are really caught and blocked by that imposter syndrome that we feel. And so I share this because when we recognize this push and pull, and if we can recognize this misbalance that's happening, then we can begin to battle it. There's 4 elements that fuel imposter syndrome, and I help tackle these in my courses that I present and give out to social workers all around. But today we're going to just tackle the first element, which is that inability, that shaky self-concept that we have. So that what do you do if you have a shaky self-concept? That's the first element that's fueling some of that imposter syndrome, and we're going to confront that today for sure. And we're going to do that by respecting and owning our own unique social work voice. Okay, so I'm going to share a bit, like I mentioned, of my own imposter syndrome today, because I'm definitely part of this club right here, the Overthinkers Anonymous. I've been drinking out of that mug for quite some time, and I'm here to help you navigate that next step. Okay, so what's going to end? I hear a lot of social workers asking me, how do you present yourself professionally and get a client to trust you? And I do this by avoiding these things. I don't have any awkward silences in my session. There's no me doing more talking than the client. That's a no-no. If you're talking more than your client, we're going to get that to stop. And there's no wondering if I've built rapport enough or if I can push them to the next level and start confrontation. There's no wondering that. And I'm definitely going to help you to end the confusion around explaining what it is you do and how you serve, because we do know that you do serve as a social worker. We're needed. So we're going to be able to keep the conversation flowing in sessions with complete ease. And this is how I'm going to do this. I've utilized the spot script, which is I'm going to teach you today. And it works with children, itty bitties, and it works all the way for resistant adolescents and resistant clients and families. It works on both ends. I started my career at the age of 23. So that was really part of the stuff I had to battle against, was being so young. And I know many of you might be in that position as well. And I hated the deer in the headlights feeling that I got every time I had to process a new referral. And I felt like, oh, what am I doing here? I'm going to freeze. I just know it. So that's why I developed this spot script that I'm sharing today. So this is me way back when. This is me up on top with all the research articles, all the textbooks are out there. And I'm about to start my 3rd job in 3 years. So the imposter syndrome was at its highest. And as you can see around, I'm starting my job here with a Bexar County juvenile probation. And this is with adolescents that are dealing with substance abuse and addiction issues. And they're in complete lockdown, and I'm expected to do individual sessions, 3 groups a week, and family sessions on top of that. So I'm overloaded. I have my LMSW. In order to keep this job, I have to get that LCSW in 2 years. And so I'm thrown into the fire at this point. And honestly, while I was here, I didn't feel prepared to work with not one of these clients. I was freezing up in every session. And honestly, I felt like I was failing my clients for sure. So that was in my mind, and I was wasting so much time overthinking what I was going to say next. So I was just completely overwhelmed, basically. But what this did, me getting uncomfortable, what it did, it was really the catalyst for me to develop my clinical path and gain some clarity over my clinical voice as well. And then once I did that, I honestly became the go-to social worker at my site there. And this was it. Like, this is the feeling. Clients coming to you, families, they're not no showing anymore. They're actually coming in for sessions, and colleagues seeking your advice and your consultation on things. It felt great. And I share this not to toot my own horn, but to just show you that you can be here too. It's not, again, I don't have a magic wand. It was just a few key things that I was doing and changing that I'm going to teach you today that really helped everything come together for myself. Okay, so this is what the SPOT framework, the SPOT script is based upon. You don't need to learn any more concepts. You're in school. The grad school is going to do that for you. So I'm not here to teach you any more academia. That's all in your mind. We don't have to rehash or teach you any more things because it's all there. And also, you don't have to be in front of the perfect client. So I know some people tell me, well, when I'm in front of that perfect client, my perfect population, then everything's going to gel together. And that is true. That can very well be true. But that doesn't happen unless you're practicing and using the SPOT framework with any client that you're in front of. We can't be waiting, because it's when we wait that we start getting stuck in things like imposter syndrome. We're waiting for that perfect timing. And a lot of times that doesn't come. So the SPOT script includes 4 key elements. It's an acronym, so it's very easy to understand, SPOT. And they are setting the tone. That's the first one. Power shifting, and open-ended questioning, which I'm sure everyone here knows what an open-ended question is. And that's basically, but these questions are going to be appropriately gauged towards the client. So they're questions that they're actually interested in answering and wanting to open up about. And then the last is testimony. And this is giving clear, specific examples about how you're able to help the client so that they keep coming back to your sessions and they keep coming back for more and to see you. So when all of these 4 elements are combined, you're going to find yourself in a really good flow with the clients. However, if 1 or 2 is missing, that flow doesn't happen as easily. And that still happens with me. Sometimes when I'm not completely connecting with the client, I find that I'm missing one of these 4 things. And then I just kind of go back and start adding that in. And then we kind of take away that block. Okay, so I'm going to go one by one through these. The first one being setting the tone. And with this one, there is a lot of people, it makes sense, but then I just want to go through it a little bit more so to clarify what I mean by setting the tone. So there is a therapeutic relationship happening in with the client. Of course, there's a give and there's a take. And so as the person with the upper hand, that's us, that's the therapist, that's the social worker, we have the upper hand in the session right there. So it's really our attitude and our presence that's gonna set the tone in there. So if you were a fly on the wall during one of my sessions, you're really going to see me very similar to the way I present here and on my YouTube videos. I'm very warm, I'm smiling, I'm welcoming. It's easy to kind of shy back and feel intimidated and kind of let the client lead, because we hear let the client lead. And so we kind of do that. And that's not the time or place to do it. What I'm telling you is to really consider yourself as the party host of your social work session, and greet them in and be warm and inviting so that they know that this is the tone of the space that they're entering. Another little trick that I want to share is the confidentiality statement. So we are drilled. I know it was drilled in my mind to make sure you lead with a confidentiality statement. And it was done so much so that I felt like this, it kind of just has to get checked off. And I don't want to seem cold to my clients. So I'm just going to ramble through it real quick and just get it out of the way. And then I realized that it's really the confidentiality statement that adds like a professionalism to the space. We have to realize that our client has really never been in a space like this before. So we have to take our time on that confidentiality statement to explain how it looks, how it feels, what's going on in there. And I use the confidentiality statement in that way. I have a whole YouTube video. It was one of my first YouTube videos actually that explains how exactly I do that. But I do allow myself to take my time on that confidentiality statement so that they're aware of why or how this space is different. I also want to urge you to take this time, this beginning first few minutes of the session, to explain what you're all about. Really take that time to share your why, so to speak. So I want you to answer also this question, if you can, in your notes real quick that you're taking. Why do you care and what sets you apart? Forgot the question mark on that one. But those two questions right there, why do I care and what sets me apart? And the reason you need to be able to own this and know this before heading into a session is because we are the ones sitting through trainings like this one, Impact Hours. We're the ones that are in classes, the MSSW classes, and experiencing what social work is. Our client is not researching social work. I can guarantee you that. They have a negative stigma about what social work is. And if we leave this blank, they're going to fill in the blank with those negative stigmas. This is where you get that resistance. Who are you to tell me? All you do is take away kids. And that can really shake up a new social worker. And we're like, oh, I don't know what to, I resistant client. And we write that down. And that's not what we want to happen. We really want to share why we care, who we are, what sets us apart from other mental health professionals as well. Because being in this field for quite some time and working amongst psychologists and LPCs, there is a lot of differences to social work that I often teach my clients as well, so that they know what the difference is. So that's a little bit about setting the tone. And then we go into the P of the SPOT framework, which is power shifting. And I have to admit, I do power shift rather early in the session because I feel like it's so important that sometimes I begin that power shift during the confidentiality statement. As I said, that's all in the video that's over on YouTube. But I do this early on because it's so, so important. If you hold on to the power seat, and I realize that some new social workers or some social workers in general really want to hold on to the power in the space and own the space, and I get that. But what happens when we don't give up that power and allow the clients to speak up and to own the problem that's happening is that the client will just coast through therapy and we feel like everything's going awesome, but they're just kind of letting you do the talking. That's what happens when we don't shift the power over. So really early on, I'll let the client know this is your space and you're going to let me know what's beyond the presenting problem. Of course, I don't use presenting problem in session because that's social work talk, but we really want to get the client to tell us what's the problem, not what's on the referral that we got. We can read that all day, but they're in front of us, they're the expert. They're going to let us know what the power is, what the problem is defined by them. And all we do here is we're listening. We're not challenging, we're not confronting anything, not quite yet. We're just listening. And soon you'll see them kind of spill out all this stuff that's really been on their shoulders, just like the little mug that I have here. It just all comes flowing out when you really allow them to own that space and just share what's on their mind. And then that kind of eases us in very easily into the open-ended questions that we're trained and share. And like this is really something we learn in our MSW program, how to ask these and what they look like. One of my favorite open-ended questions, one that fits all the time, is have you ever been to therapy before? And if so, how was that like? Did you like it? Why or why not? Or if they hadn't been, why not? Why now? Right? These are the ways that we start getting them to open up. With these open-ended questions as well, I let my client know early on that I ask a lot of weird questions. So I let them know that right off the bat so that they're kind of expecting some of these odd questions. Another one that I really like is Tell me a time that the problem wasn't as big or easier to handle as it is right now. And so these questions are kind of those head scratchers, like, what are you trying to ask? And so they really feel challenged to answer those if you present it in that way. I also let them know that because I'm asking a lot of questions, they can ask me questions too. This is a therapeutic relationship. There's a back and forth. And if I don't feel comfortable answering those questions, I will set my boundary and let them know. And if they're not comfortable answering my questions, because truth be told, we are strangers starting this relationship, then they're welcome to let me know as well. And I'll stop. So it's really kind of showing them how this space is going to work for them. And then we get to the last, which is the testimony. And by testimony, I feel like I might be hitting a little root right here with imposter syndrome, because you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do I do a testimony? How do I toot my own horn if I don't have any clinical experience or have no experience with clients? How do I do a testimony? And so I really want to start by redefining what testimony means. So in this space, testimony really is aligning with the client. So it's really kind of showing the client that we have a plan, and then we kind of share how we're going to go about that. It does not mean that you have to have the solutions right off the bat. I think early on we feel like if I'm not solving a problem, I'm not helpful. And that is furthest from the truth. So here we're going to start by letting them know that we're tailoring a unique treatment plan that's specific for them. And in tailoring something, it's going to take some time, it's going to take some research when you're doing that. So that's something we want them to know. We're asking about their goals right here. We want to know, what solutions are they seeking? That's really important, to set goals with the client and really get those early on in the first session if possible, so that you can realize what success is going to look like for them. And then you share a little bit about your background, if you have any, if they're wanting to handle or manage their anger better, not get angry when this or that happens and just be able to let it roll off their back. Then you share if you have any background. So for me, it would be like, wow, I helped many residents at the Bexar County Juvenile Probation manage anger. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to use some of those skills that I learned over here, some really good things that worked for them, and I'm going to bring it to you here for the teen dad that I'm working with, because I'm sure we can try and test those out. And that's where the buy-in starts happening. And I'm not saying I'm the best at solving everything, but I'm telling him that I've had some experience with anger before with this population back here, and we'll test these out to see if it's going to work for him. So there's this buy-in, this kind of light at the end of the tunnel at this point for the client. So if you can use previous success stories, and of course we don't share any confidential information, but we do kind of share that so they can see that light as well. Okay. And so as I'm kind of sharing that, I think I mentioned imposter syndrome as well. I mentioned how when we think of testimony and kind of sharing our background or our previous success stories, we start questioning ourselves. And with clients, we start thinking, oh my gosh, like, am I going to be able to help this client? I still go through that as well. How I want to reframe this as well for you as far as imposter syndrome is, our clients are bleeding. We have to picture them as having like a literal cut. Picture your client bleeding, and you have a Band-Aid in your purse, in your back pocket, in your wallet, wherever. You have a Band-Aid. So imposter syndrome sounds like, well, I have this Band-Aid, but is it big enough? Is it gonna hold? Is it strong enough? I really don't know if I should tell this person that I have a Band-Aid. It sounds ridiculous. If someone has a cut, you're gonna say, hey, I have a Band-Aid here. And almost that alone, just presenting the Band-Aid alone, is going to help the client just see, oh, there's some hope. Oh, someone's here. It's almost just that presence. And the analogy to me here is, we are those Band-Aids. We help. We have the knowledge. This is not the time to question that knowledge when we're in the session with the client. We have to present that knowledge, even if it's a little bit, because this space and holding space for the client is really the goal of the session. I want to go back, and what the spot technique is really about is really, like we started with, setting the tone. It's creating a space for the client that they're unused to and that they're needing in their life, especially now. And I want to end off by telling you real quick before we do our last little summary up, is that people are not going to remember, similar to the quote by Maya Angelou, they're not going to remember what we said or what we did, but they are going to remember how we made them feel in that session. And that's really the underlying framework of this spot technique, is really keep that top of mind. I mentioned that testimony is really being able to share your Band-Aid, what your solution is, how you help. And I asked this right in the beginning, what do you do? And so I want to give you a really simple template that will help you if you struggled here. I'm going to give you the template, and it is, I work with, and it's like a Mad Lib, fill in the blank, this population by helping them blank so that they can blank. And an example, if you're kind of wondering how to fill this in, for myself, I work with teen parents, pregnant and teen parents, by helping them fill the gaps in their education that they need so that they can graduate from high school. Now, my client can still not want to work with me, but at this point, I've told them who I work with, what I do, and what their goal is. So when they are coming around to, man, I need to get to graduation, let me call up that lady that was talking to me one day because she said she helps teen moms graduate. And that's how I get my referrals from the community, from parents, from other students themselves, self-referring, because they remember that this is my statement, this is what I do. And the clearer you can get about this, the easier those referrals come in, the more that you can make an impact. So this is really a great way to kind of define who you are and what you do to your population and to those. I also help you define this, like when you're in a job interview and things like that. And those are ways that I continue to help out as you're going through your journey in social work. So I hope that you found some of this helpful. We'll do questions in just a bit, but these are my handles on social media if you're wanting to stay connected or follow for more. And it's really easy. It's Social Work Scrapbook on Instagram and on YouTube. And yes, I do check my messages on both. Have a lot there, but I do get to at each and every one of them. And if you're wanting to work with me, I do have an LCSW roadmap that can help you if you know you want to go clinical, kind of helps it kind of go. This is a little piece of the roadmap that I presented today, but it also goes into how to interview for clinical roles and clinical jobs, how to find a supervisor. In Texas, you need a board-approved supervisor, so how to go about doing that. And then I also provide career coaching, consultation, and clinical supervision for LMSWs as well. So really exciting to be here and kind of hold space for social workers. And at this point, if you have any questions about the spot script that I went over, or imposter syndrome, or my journey, or any next steps that you have for yourself, I welcome and kind of open it up for questions that you may have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. I love your material because it's so practical.
Thank you.
And I really, love the scripts that you give. And sometimes we just need the words to say, we need someone to tell us the words. So this was such great information. Very great comments too. I do want to ask a few questions that came in beforehand.
Sure.
And one of the first questions was, what is your self-care plan? And people, oftentimes people give tips, but they don't tell you how to do it in your daily life. So what do you do for self-care?
So as far as self-care, I really try to think of the wheel of self-care. I've done a few videos on this. If you're more of a visual person and like to see how these look in play, I've recorded myself, but I do a lot of meditation. That's very important to me, especially this year, is connecting with myself. I also try to get physical and do some exercise. Not the best at that at all times. So I don't want you to feel shamed into doing that. If it's not for you, you kind of just trust your body and what it's needing at the moment. Drinking water and hydrating is very, very important. And spending time with my family. So for you, it might not be family, but spending time with people that really know how to energize you. We know, or maybe you'll learn soon that even at your career and in your job, there's going to be people that are going to be marigolds. And I've shared this in a video. And a marigold is someone that helps others around them thrive. Their energies, their energy sources And then there's walnut trees. And what a walnut tree is it's kind of those, they can be seasoned individuals in our profession, but they really drain the energy out of others around them. They're constantly complaining and they're constantly making excuses or have something negative to say about the agency or about the clients even. And we feel like that doesn't bother us, but it really does. It's really like the top 5 people you spend your time with is really going to show you how your energy is being split and where you're focusing your energy. So my best thing is like for quick self-care at the workplace is really find the people that are the marigolds, the ones that uplift those around them. And it's interesting because research shows that farmers actually plant marigolds near their crops so that more crops will grow, like tomato plants and things like that. And this is all in the video because it's very easy to understand that if you're a marigold in your environment, try not to spend time around those walnut trees in your schooling or in your agency, because they will be very, very draining, and they're going to be gravitated towards you, of course, but you really have to protect your energy in that sense. And that's really one of the key things that's helped me maintain my motivation for social work, is that I'm very protective of my energy. Today I'm taking a mental health day because I wasn't going to run around like a crazy person trying to do this and that for everyone else. So just really taking time for yourself.
I love that.
Thank you.
We have another question in the chat. Could you do a quick example of how you present the confidentiality statement to your students? Kind of like the wording that, or I guess to your clients,
Yeah,
but the wording that you use.
yeah,
Oh,
I've presented it several times to several different ages and I tweak it ever so often. But I do ask them, first of all, if they know what a social worker is, and they kind of will try to explain it to me. And then I tell them that in this space, everything is going to remain private and confidential. We'll ask them if they know what confidential means. And usually they say privacy or something like that. And I use that to motivate them and highlight the strength there. So, wow, you know what that means. That's really awesome. I'm just going to expand a little bit on that. Everything stays private in this space as long as we are sharing whatever you're sharing today stays here, of course, except for 3 things. And then I go through the 3 things. If you want to kill yourself, if you and you'll get the reactions from the client at this point. And I stay very serious in as I'm saying this to kind of set that tone and let them know that some clients do get to that point sometimes, and it's okay. But if you share anything that you're going to be in danger, so if you want to kill yourself, if you're going to hurt someone else, or if someone's hurting you, my main goal is safety, and I'm not going to be keeping something secret if I know you're not safe. And so that's something, and I do tell them, I'd rather you be mad and upset at me and you safe than I kept your secret and then we don't have you here anymore. And you see them get a little bit emotional because I work with younger or adolescents that are really dealing with a lot. And so I kind of hold that space for them, but I do let them know I've heard things that, over my years that are not going to shock me and surprise me. So please, like, this is your space, this is your outlet to share what you need to, and know that it's not going to go this way or that. Because working in a school system, there isn't anyone that maintains confidentiality at all. Not a school counselor, not a teacher, but social workers have their license and we do. And so I define that early on as well, so they know right away that this space is automatically different.
great. Thank you. While we're talking about schools, how do you make the most impact within a Title IX school?
So I think every school is completely different, and it's a learning curve if you're newer to the field, but you really have to, just like a client, you have to observe the school, speak to the teachers and the staff as well as the principals, to really get a good indicator of what that school is needing. It might be parent engagement. It might not be that. There might be the engagement, but it's in the wrong direction. So it's a lot of tweaking your program to make sure it's fitting with that school. But I do know with Title IX, parent engagement is one of those things. So that's one of the points that you want to hit right away, because we know research shows that when parents are involved in a student's education, the student achieves so much more. So these are the things that I I would tackle first thing is that parent engagement with the parents that you have, which can be tough. And I do have some things up on my YouTube channel that will help you with special parents of students with special needs and with parents in general, as far as like middle school. That's where I worked for a while in trying to increase engagement among the staff and the parents as well, just the adults in general. But it's really kind of providing a lot of engagement for parents is what I would suggest, especially with the Title IX.
And for the students that are on online right now, how do you handle the imposter syndrome when it comes to working with parents?
So to me, it's almost the same as the spot script. It's really setting the tone and letting them know. With parents, it depends on where you're at, but I was in the middle school. That was my first school social work position where I'm at now. And so I would let them know with sixth grade parents in general, I would start with them. They were the number one on my list, and I would let them know this is a trouble. This middle school is a big transition for students, and parents are really scared that they're going to lose their children, their innocence at this time. So I let them know I'm your eyes and ears at school. The school social worker is that link between home and school. So my district provides us with cell phones. So I do give them my cell phone right off the first thing. And I let them know if you have questions about a course, about the teacher, about the nurse, about the gym, if your student had a hard time over the weekend or last night, send me a text, let me know. I'll check on them and text you right back at work and let you know, oh, he's doing fine. Or, he's a little tearful. So I'm going to pull him out and we're going to do a quick little check-in real quick to see what he needs. And I'll get those messages from them. Oh, so-and-so couldn't find his backpack this morning. Can you hand him some paper? So it's really starting with those little building blocks and setting the tone so they know what to expect from you. And then allowing them time to vent about the teachers or whoever they need to vent about, and letting them know that everything is confidential, that they're sharing with you as well, because they're your client as well, just like the students are.
Great. I love that, we have the ability to maintain confidentiality with our students and parents. And oftentimes I know school social workers even become, confidence of, the cafeteria workers and teachers and everybody that works in the school. You serve the whole school. So that is one factor that definitely makes us unique in that setting. We had a question in the chat. I had an MSW instructor tell me that I'm quiet and that no one wants to see a quiet social worker. This brought my self-esteem down and led into the imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
I'm confused how to approach their perspective of my personality.
Yeah, and honestly, Nicole, that triggers me too. That's part of my journey. Was I'm an introvert. I observe a lot, and honestly, those are tools that social workers need as well. We need to be observant. We need to advocate, but we're not loud. We don't need to be loud to serve a client's needs. So I started off pretty quiet. I worked clinically. Once I learned the spot script, my clients would talk. We'd be in there for 45 minutes, right to an hour. Every time I'd go an hour or a little bit over, and people would say, "You're so quiet. What are you talking about in there? Why, how do you get them to talk? Like, that kid also doesn't talk." Sometimes it's your quietness that is going to help a client open up more. They're going to gravitate towards you because you're not this loud vocal person that they feel like is suddenly like, let her do all the talking. So here, I know I appear very extroverted in my videos and my YouTube because it's like me. But honestly, I'm very introverted. And with the client, you read the client. If they're very hyper, you kind of join them up here. But if they're mellow, you're not going to see me shouting and screaming. I'm really going to start where they're at and really kind of feel it out. But you always start where the client is, and that's what that means to me. But I really feel like there is no need to worry about trying to be extroverted or loud. Really lean into what makes you unique, and if it's that quietness, then highlight that about yourself and really utilize that as your strength, because not everyone has to be cut from the same cloth. And that's really why I created this script, the spot script. It's really not a script. If you're kind of looking for something to read, it's not. It's because you shouldn't sound like me and I shouldn't sound like you. Our clients need different social workers of different levels and different colors and different personality types to be able to connect to.
Great. Speaking of the spot method, have you implemented the SPOT framework for group work? And is there anything that you would tweak?
I have not implemented the spot for groups because groups are a whole different ball game to me. And so I would have to develop something for groups on how I run groups. It looks very different. I've facilitated and co-facilitated groups with LPCs. They run groups very differently than what social work groups look like. A social work group can look like a messy, like a lot of things are happening. And to me, that's what I'm comfortable with. I'm comfortable triggering a little more of my clients in a group so it looks different. My groups are going to look different because I'm going to know and I'm going to have screened who's in my group, and I'm going to know who the leaders are, who the challengers are, and they're going to do that work for me. So there's just much more dynamics happening in group. So it's not a quick tweak, unfortunately, Stephanie. It's not going to be a quick tweak to a spot method. It's going to be something else completely that maybe one day I'll help to explain how that looks. But groups kind of have a mind of their own.
Great. Have you ever experienced a pushy parent wanting to know about their child? And if so, how did you address them?
Yeah, all the time. I let the parent know, like and I do some psychoeducation around the child development. So depending on the development, we see a lot of pushy parents around 6th, 7th grade, really wanting to know everything. And as I mentioned, I'm their eyes and ears. I do let them know that as they're getting older, there is going to be a natural independence that's growing and how we want that to flourish and to grow. So I do that psychoeducation piece. And I also let them know that I would rather they share some things with me and me hold that confidential so that someone at least has that insight. And of course, the confidentiality that if anything does become dangerous, it's going to be said to them and to the administrator, whoever needs to know, to CPS, that they're also going to know. So it's kind of that brings down the guard a little bit, but I let them know that we rather the student trust someone and share it with someone other than kind of keep it to themselves and no longer trust me. I kind of let them know that I'm that little open spot. And if there is something of danger, it's going to be shared. It's going to be something we're going to address together.
Thank you. Right now, I want to turn it over to our audience members. Is there anybody that would like to unmute themselves and ask a question? It's hard to see with so many people on. Let's see. All right.
I'll ask a question. I already did, but I have another one.
Hi, Kaylee.
So I work in a school, and I think a lot of times I get confused. Like I heard you mention in answering my last question about confidentiality, and I've asked, like, what are the differences between social workers' confidentiality versus like a school counselor or a teacher? And you kind of alluded to that, so I was hoping you could maybe speak a little bit more to that because I don't ever really get like a clear answer on the difference.
Oh, yeah, sure. And so I'm only going to speak for my district. Our teachers and school counselors do not have to maintain confidentiality at all. As some of them might state that to their students, and some of them may do that like just out of their own ethics. But I let the students know that we social workers, we being social workers, a licensed social worker is the only professional on the campus that truly has to respect confidentiality. That means nothing leaves this room unless you're in danger of the three things, the three exceptions. Nothing leaves this room, or I can get fired and lose my license and never be able to work again in the field that I love. And they kind of grasped that then and there. I said, anyone else might say they're going to hold your secrets, and maybe they will. If there's a teacher they trust or a counselor they trust, by all means, those are people to go to. But don't expect it to stay within that room. And if it travels around, which kids can really buy into that concept of gossip and rumors traveling around. That's why a lot of them are shut down by the time they get to me. They really don't want to open up. And then that's why I share that difference, that other professionals don't have any confidentiality, at least where I work and where I'm at. And so that's important to understand too. As a school social worker, you might feel like you can align with the counselor and share things. And honestly, they don't have to maintain anything in privacy either. And you'll hear it spread to other teachers or administration, and that can be triggering. And that's where we begin to advocate for our clients and really try to mediate that for the parent and student as well when we have to.
I have another question that was sent to us beforehand, and I always, I get this question a lot. What are the options between the time after obtaining your MSW and pursuing your clinical social work, your LCSW?
As far as job options,
I think so, yeah.
okay. So as far as job options, I feel like this is really the opportunity to find who your ideal population is and challenge yourself a little bit. So for me, I wanted to work with children and youth, and I went into juvenile probation wanting to work with those adolescents. However, where I was pushed out of my comfort zone was I was working with addicted children and adolescents, and that's something I had no background in, and somehow they still hired me. I think the turnover was so high, but it's really kind of challenging yourself to take on those roles that you don't really see yourself doing for too long, so that you get that background and you can utilize those as your experience as well when you're working with future clients. But definitely trying to find a job, and this is in the LCSW roadmap, literally how to job search for a clinical type of role that doesn't need LCSW just yet, or like my job that is gonna like allow you to get the LCSW while you're working there. So that's what I would really start looking for. Once you have that LMSW and you're wanting to go clinical at some point, you're looking for those specific types of jobs.
Lauren, can you remind us what the roadmap is?
The roadmap is, it's a self-paced, like a 4-piece video set that's self-paced. It's around $35, I believe, and it's linked in pretty much everywhere. It's linked on Instagram for sure, but it kind of walks you through how to develop your clinical voice and whether clinical social work is your route or not, how to decipher that, and how to then secure an LMSW or LCSW supervisor, how to apply for the job and interview for a clinical role, and then also just how to navigate the licensure types, because there's so many different licensure parameters all over the state. So kind of a little bit on how to navigate, how to decipher that, the jargon that's in the licensure web pages and applications.
Great. And that's available on all your platforms.
Yeah, the link is available on all my platforms.
Awesome. And I also wanted to mention that Lauren is taking new supervisees for her supervision practice. And I can't imagine what a great supervisor you would be. I've learned so much just in this 45 minutes. So as I mentioned before, the Steve Hicks School of Social Work is so proud of you, and you're such a great ambassador for the profession, and you are going to definitely be one that lifts us all up. So we appreciate you so much coming today. And did you have any closing remarks for the group?
No, I just really hope that you were able to gather something today, and take something to your clients. Really, what I do is I share all this insight so that we can impact and make a difference with the clients that we're working with. I know we all have hearts for different populations, and I just wanted to, I always end by wishing you social work success, but also just thanking you for the populations that you work with and everything that you're doing. We're unsung heroes, but our clients feel it and know how special we are. So please continue what you're doing and step into your voice. And thank you so much for sharing this time with me.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. And next week, our impact hour will be on echo social work. Sarah, are you online right now? Can you tell
Yeah, I am. Hey, y'all.
a little bit about next week?
Totally. And I'm the events coordinator at the Donato Center. And I just want to first echo what Jennifer said. Lauren, that was such a great, inspiring presentation. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. Next week, we have a really interesting impact hour. It's the same time, same place, Zoom. That is going to be co-facilitated with some really amazing student leaders who are a part of EJAT, which is Environmental Justice, Ecotherapy student organization here at UT. And they are going to be leading a conversation with Max Elliott, who is the co-founder of a really amazing organization called Urban Roots that does environmental justice work and also is, has continued to incorporate ecotherapy methods into their practice. So super interesting conversation around environmental justice, around food justice, and how awareness about that can be integrated into everyone's practice. So we hope that we will see you all there. And thank you so much, Lauren. This was awesome.
Thank you all. See you next week.